The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hello, good evening to all our listeners. A very warm welcome to the VAR Show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. The show also includes results, gossips, transfer rumors, controversies, statistics, facts, banter and much more. यहाँ अहिले यो show BFM 91.2 MHz मा सुनिरहनु भएको छ. यो show every Friday at 7 PM air हुन्छ हैन. You can also tune in through हाम्रो पात्रो app and also through www.bfm912.com. There are a lot of options. If you do not know how to use them, I'll just give you a briefing about it. So in Hamro Partner app, you can download through iOS or Android. Go to the Play Store or the equivalent of Apple and download the app, and then go to the radio sections. In the radio section, you can go and search bfm912.com, not .com, 912. So then 91.2, then you can play the show at 7 PM. Or else you can go to the website and you have a live radio going on every time. So whichever show you want to hear, you can go there. For our show, you have to go there at 7 PM on Fridays. So we have Sashi with us, who will be looking at the technical aspects of the show today. Thank you so much for being there, Sashi, because it's a very difficult time, and for you to come here and run it, thank you again. So what's in the show? Transfer, Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, TVS, songs, you name it, we have it. We also have interviews which we have started recently. So you'll be in for a ride today. On that note, we'll be playing our first song. So enjoy the song and I'll see you after the song. So hello, welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed the song Carnival of Rush by Poets of the Fall. So now we'll move on to our interview segment, and today we have a very special guest. We have a very, very unique guest. We try to get unique guests every week, and today we have a very unique guest. We have former Manchester United sleep recovery coach, Mr. Nick Littlehalds with us. So he worked with United during the era of Sir Alex Ferguson, and now he has worked with a lot of big profile clubs like Barcelona, Liverpool, Manchester City, Real Madrid, to name a few. So without wasting much time, I'd like to first thank Nick for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
Obviously, we're all having the same conversations around the world, but we're in the UK where I'm based. We are just starting to open up trading and things like that. So we're all in that sort of phase of trying to get used to a new approach. So we'll all keep our fingers crossed that things move forward and not backwards, I think. But it's been an interesting time, hasn't it? So I think it's affected us all in so many different ways. We'll just have to see what the future brings for us now, I think.
So definitely. So, like moving on from that, like when I was preparing I wanted to get it long time back, but for some reason it didn't happen or whatever. So, when I was preparing the questions, I was very intrigued by the term sleep specialist or recovery specialist. Can you shed some light as to what it is?
The role I play, I spent a lot of time in what you classify as the sleep industry. I'm not academically qualified or come from a clinical background in sleep, but I'd always been involved with sleeping products, sleep associations and things like that. I was an international director of a large comfort group company, and that meant I traveled a lot around the world. I did a lot of sort of research and things with the clinical side of sleep, and I think all that journey, I just found there was a lot of misunderstandings. There was no definitive guidelines. We knew how important sleep was, but principally you sort of get on with it. So it's always been a sort of health pillar that's always been taken for granted. It's not considered a performance criteria along with other specific health pillars. So I think I just became a little bit disillusioned with, whilst I'd had quite an impact on the industry, we weren't really having any impact on the general consumer. So just purely by accident, I started to communicate with a football club in the UK in sport, which was local to my UK office. Principally, it was driven by, maybe selling products or whatever, but it sort of started a dialogue, a conversation, and all the little things that I looked into and had my own particular take on it, I was able to communicate that on to the sports coaches and the manager and things like that. And that just started to develop. That moved into a national squad because a lot of those players were playing for the national England squad as well. That developed another conversation with another club. And so suddenly I woke up one morning and, the press 2 decades ago had sort of found out that there was somebody working with football players around sleep. So they used the word coach and sleep. And I sort of woke up and thought, well, that's me. So I principally had to put something together because I was now a sleep coach in sport. So there was no other sleep coaches around. There was nothing to benchmark anything against, So it was sort of like I had to put something together. It was a combination of trying to redefine the language around sleep to see if we could make some impact on young football players at the time. And I suppose when you say specialist or anything, it's really over the couple of decades I've been at it is we are looking for specific performance orientated benefits from sleep, but we're also looking to try and protect the individuals from the ever demanding schedules. So it's kind of, we're not looking for clinical disorders. We're actually looking at how we can manage our 24-hour rolling process to get more consistent and sustainable levels of recovery. And that's really what I do. I use a technique that I've developed over those years. It's about awareness, it's about understanding. It's about little aggregation gains. It's those myths and misunderstandings. And it's proved to be extremely successful. It's been a hard journey. Sleep is a big subject now. But I think it's just all about education and awareness, really, to be honest. That's all we do.
So, like you mentioned that when you started, there wasn't much, or still, I don't think so. There are much, maybe specialist or like in what you do. No. So back then, probably it was even more rare or next to null. So, did people or the press take you for granted? Because right now, in a similarly different, slightly different position, you have Liverpool appointing a throw-in coach, Thomas Gornemark, which was ridiculed by many people. So were you ever ridiculed being a sleep coach?
I think that's what I sort of mentioned, if I got the question correctly, is that it just so happened that the first club I started to sort of have dialogue with was a club called Manchester United in the UK. The manager, Alex Ferguson, was a very open-minded manager and successful one. He had a unique set of players at the time, and he simply we ended up having some conversation because of an event we were at, and he sort of was interested that if we don't do anything in this particular area, then why don't we? So I think if it was any other club or manager at the time, nobody would have taken any interest because it was just a conversation. And even up until quite recently, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was only certain individuals inside of sport who would bring me on board to try and do something about things. So it's kind of like the media, the press, and lots of people in sport found it a little bit comedy. What on earth is this guy doing with this subject? But so it was tough, and probably wanted to give up so many times because it was so hard. But there's always been an organisation who wanted to bring me in to look at this area and see if we could get some performance gains. And like I said, it's there are now variations of sleep coaches all over the world, because sleep is the big old subject that we're blaming for everything. So I think we've gone from a position of almost zero to let's dive in there and find out as much as we can, you know.
So on that note, we'll take our first break, and before we move on to the break, we'll play our second song titled Somewhere I Belong by Linkin Park. This is one of my personal favorite bands, and I hope you'll like the song. It's a very, very beautiful song for me at least, and I hope I can convert you all to listening to this song. So enjoy the song, and I'll see you after the break.
मार्बल, ग्रेनाइट, सिभी फिटिङ्स, बाथवेयर र सेनेटरीका लागि पूर्वाञ्चलमै पहिलो एक्सक्लुसिभ सोरुम रोयल मार्बल अब विराटनगरमा। रोयल मार्बल प्राइभेट लिमिटेड, हाम्रो अस्पताल अगाडि एयरपोर्ट मोड, 021 460 231 र 98 017 083 33।
रोयल मार्बल, एक्सपिरियन्स द रोयल लिभिङ।
ओहो शिला, धेरै दिनपछि भेट भयो नि। पहिलेको भन्दा तिमी त निकै फेरेछौ।
ए हो र, जबदेखि मैले खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल प्रयोग गरेँ तबदेखि नै म स्वस्थ छु र मेरा परिवार पनि स्वस्थ नै छन्। त्यसैले म तिमीलाई पनि अलि महँगो भए तापनि यही खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गर्ने सल्लाह दिन्छु।
त्यसो भए म पनि आजदेखि यही खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गर्छु।
हजुर, 2 दशकदेखि उपलब्ध हुँदै आएको उही हाम्रो खुकुरी ब्रान्ड शुद्ध तोरीको तेल नै प्रयोग गरी ढुक्क हौं।
खुसीको खबर, अब विराटनगरमै पहिलो पटक दाँत सम्बन्धी सम्पूर्ण उपचार अत्याधुनिक उपकरणबाट।
त्रिभुवन विश्वविद्यालयका गोल्ड मेडलिस्ट डाक्टर पवन मेहताद्वारा अब लोक सेवा डेन्टल क्लिनिक विराटनगरमा अत्याधुनिक उपकरणबाट दाँत सम्बन्धी सम्पूर्ण समस्याको उपचार गरिन्छ। तपाईँ पनि सम्झनुहोस्।
स्तरीय सर्वसुलभ र भरपर्दो उपचारका लागि लोक सेवा डेन्टल क्लिनिक विराटनगर 5 बरगाछी।
सम्पर्क 9807 24 167 9807 24 167।
घर घर अनि गृहिणीको साथ उल्लासले बनाउँदैछ परिवार एकसाथ।
बुबालाई हुल्लास आटाको रोटीको स्वाद होस् वा आमालाई बासमती चामलको भात, खानामा रहर दालको साथ हुन्छन् सबै खाएर गदगद हुलासको पापड।
हुलास फुड्सका उत्पादनहरू हुलास आटा, हुलास बासमती राइस, जिरा मसिनो राइस,
हुलासको कुरुम कुरुम चिउरा, हुलासको इडली राइस।
हुलासले बनाउँदैछ परिवार एकसाथ।
कोरोना भाइरस कोभिड-19 विरुद्ध धनपालथान गाउँपालिकाको अभियान।
नआत्यौं, उच्च सतर्कता अपनाऊ। साबुन पानीले नियमित रूपमा हात धुने बानी बसालौं। हात अनुहारमा नलैजाऊ। भिडभाडदेखि टाढै बसौं। सरकार र स्वास्थ्य कर्मीले भनेको मानौ।
धनपालथान गाउँपालिका मोरङ।
सोमानी ड्युरा ग्रेस लन्च, पूर्वाञ्चलको एक मात्र सोरुम सिटी मार्बलमा। सोमानीका ड्युरा ग्रेस ठुला ठुला टाइल्सका साथसाथै जेक्वायरका फर्सेट र सेनेटरी वेयरका साथै मार्बल ग्रेनाइट, मार्बल फ्लोगार्डका CPVC, PVC फिटिङ र PVC बोर्डहरू खोजे जस्तो उचित मूल्यमा पाउनुहुनेछ।
सिटी मार्बल, विराटनगर, भिरकुडी चोक, DSP रोड।
फोन 021 52 71 81 52 71 81।
हार्दिक बधाई, हार्दिक बधाई, हार्दिक बधाई। वाइवाई जिंक हरर स्कुटरमा सरर। वाइवाई जिंकमा जित उपभोक्ता उपहार योजना अन्तर्गत स्कुटर जित्न सफल धरान 15 सुनसरीकी सुश्री सुप्रिया श्रेष्ठलाई हार्दिक बधाई।
वाइवाई जिंकमा जित एभर स्वादिलो वाइवाई जिंक, जिंक हरर स्कुटरमा सरर। वाइवाई जिंक।
कति राम्रो गहना कहाँ किनेको?
यो सब अमन ज्वेलर्सको कमाल हो नि। यहाँ असल सुन चाँदीको तयारी गरगहना, राशि रत्न, रुद्राक्ष पाउनको साथै अर्डर बमोजिम ग्यारेन्टीका साथै तयार गरिन्छ। तपाईँ पनि नयाँ डिजाइनको गरगहनाहरू चाहनुहुन्छ भने अमन ज्वेलर्सलाई सम्झिनुहोस्।
अमन ज्वेलर्स, राम जानकी पथ, विराटनगर 1। प्रोप्राइटर बब्लुजी। 9841 26 740 98 420 45 765।
BFM 91.2 सुन्दै जाऊ। BFM 91.2 सुनाउँदै जाऊ।
The VAR show. The one place for your weekly football update.
So definitely, so according to you, how would you define a good sleep?
Well, you hear it so much about products and things that, are supposed to give you a perfect night's sleep, but you can't actually define what a perfect night's sleep is because there are so many variables in our rolling 24 hours. Our human behavior is constantly changing. So when you put all those things together, we tend to just wake up in the morning and it doesn't matter how well or not well we've slept, we still crack on with our day. So I don't think anybody's really sat down to try and understand specifically what is a good night's sleep. Now we've got trackers and more knowledge, and technology allows us to investigate this sleeping process in more detail. But in principle, a good night's sleep is an undisturbed period where you roll through the various stages of sleep in a nice rhythmical pattern, and you feel, relatively refreshed to get on with your day, and you don't appear to suffer from things like insomnia and lots of awakenings and disturbed sleep. So I think the criteria is just a nice period of time where you're able to roll into sleep relatively easily and stay asleep and feel refreshed. And if you can keep that going consistently and more sustainably as you go through any period, then pretty much that's about as good as it gets.
So, you spoke about the performance of players also, you just touched brief, on a gist. So, as a coach, how much of an effect does a good sleep have on a player's performance on the field?
Well, I worked with an organisation called British Cycling and a professional cycling team called Team Sky. And this was male and female and Paralympic cyclists on the velodrome tracks, but also on the big grand tours like the Tour de France. And they're very demanding, and recovery, mental and physical recovery is absolutely key to be able to meet those challenges. And what you're looking for really is, sometimes in sport, we classify it as like the aggregation of marginal gains. It's these little 1% factors that all add up to mean that an athlete can go through an event and be able to reach their peak of performance consistently through that period, and most definitely towards the end of an event when it matters. And that could be a football game, that could be a Tour de France, that could be anything. So what you start to see is levels of stamina, cardiovascular performance, the way you process what you're eating and what you're drinking, how the body processes that and what it does with that. You can look at oxygen levels, which can aid performance. You can look at a reduction in sort of these minor injuries, a muscle strain or something like that. You can also look at injury times being reduced. So if you do get a little problem, you're back into it quicker. You've got other things which are more about alertness, awareness, mood, motivation, and all of those little things and little decision making. So when you look at the whole balance of performance, it's having, by being able to recover effectively, your brain is having an opportunity to take you into certain sleep stages, particularly deep sleep stages, where it basically almost puts you in a paralyzed state. It shuts down absolutely everything, principally. And it's about rejuvenation, repair, and rebuilding for another period of activity. So if you're giving the brain the best opportunity to get the highest levels of that, then what happens is the knock-on effect is all these other little factors are under control. So, it could be just a simple decision made in the heat of an event or in everyday challenge that you just make and might create an accident, create a different decision. So it's about all of those things come together. And sometimes when you look at any elite ortho like that, they've got elite athletes at the highest level, but there's another team that's just that bit better. They do it more consistently. They're able to be at their best in the final parts of an event. They seem to be able to bring themselves into the event better and come out of the event better. And so you sort of wonder why is that? And principally what we've been finding out is this sleep area is one of the key factors for being able to reveal higher levels of performance more consistently, more often.
So we move towards the second break of the evening, and before the second break, as a usual custom, we'll play a song, the third song of the evening, titled Superheroes by The Script. Enjoy the song, and I'll see you on the other side.
Took away the prophet's dream for a prophet on the street. Now she's stronger than you know. A heart of steel starts to grow. All his life he's been told he'll be nothing when he's old. All the kicks and all the blows, he won't ever let it show. 'Cause he's stronger than you know. A heart of steel starts to grow. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been working every day and night. That's how a superhero learns to all the hurt, all the lies, all the tears that they cry. When the moment is just right, you see fire in their eyes. 'Cause he's stronger than you know. A heart of steel starts to grow. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been working every day and night. That's how a superhero learns to fly. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into power. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into power. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into power. She's got a lion in her heart, a fire in her soul. He's got a beast in his belly that's so hard to control. 'Cause they've taken too much hits, they go blow by blow. Now light him at stand back, watch him explode. She's got a lion in her heart, a fire in her soul. He's got a beast in his belly that's so hard to control. 'Cause they've taken too much hits, they go blow by blow. Now light him at stand back, watch him explode, 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 explode. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to fly. Every hour, turn the pain. When you've been fighting for it all your life, you've been working every day and night. That's how a superhero learns to fly. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into power. Oh yeah. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into power. Oh yeah. Every day, every hour, turn the pain into fighting for it all your life. You've been struggling to make things right. That's how a superhero learns to.
स्वास्थ्य कार्यालय मोरङको अनुरोध।
बालबालिकाहरूलाई विभिन्न संक्रामक तथा प्राणघातक रोगहरूबाट बचाउन तपाईहरूको नजिकको समुदायमा प्रत्येक महिना नियमित खोप सेवा सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ।
बच्चाका भविष्य सुरक्षित बनाउन बच्चा जन्मेदेखि 15 महिना भित्रमा तोकिएको सबै खोपहरू तोकिएको समयमै पूरा लगाऊ। खोप लगाउने उमेरका आफ्ना बालबालिकालाई प्रत्येक महिना नजिकको खोप केन्द्रमा लगी खोप लगाऊ।
खोप सेवा सम्बन्धी कुनै पनि जानकारी चाहिएमा महिला स्वास्थ्य स्वयंसेविका र स्वास्थ्य कर्मीसँग सम्पर्क राखौं।
नेपाल सरकारले उपलब्ध गराएका सबै खोपहरू सबै बालबालिकालाई पाएको सुनिश्चित गर्न राजनीतिक दल, नागरिक समाज, बुद्धिजीवी, व्यवसायी, स्वास्थ्य कर्मी, महिला स्वास्थ्य स्वयंसेविका, आमा समूह, शिक्षक, विद्यार्थी, सञ्चारकर्मीहरूको पनि सक्रिय सहयोगका लागि हार्दिक अपील गर्दछौँ।
खोप पाउनु बालबालिकाको नैसर्गिक अधिकार हो भने खोप दिलाउनु हामी सबैको कर्तव्य हो।
स्वास्थ्य कार्यालय मोरङ।
नेपाल में पहिल बेर एनसेल लौलक्या वायर फ्री प्लस घर तथा ऑफिस के कोनो कोना में एक समान चलो वाला एक तार विहीन इंटरनेट www.ncell.azieta.com/wirefree+ पर जाओ, वायर फ्री प्लस खरीद करू अब पाओ भरोसेगर वाईफाई संगे 60 GB वायर फ्री डाटा, 10 GB सिम डाटा और अन्य डिजिटल सेवा सब गजब के कम्बो। वार्षिक अग्रिम भुगतान पर टैक्स के अलावा मात्र 690 रुपया से शुरू। त्यहाँ आप वाईफाई बनत सस्ता नीक भरोसेगर। अधिक जानकारी के लिए 9008 डायल करू।
अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिकमा अब दन्त चिकित्सा सेवा सुरु।
50 वर्ष भन्दा लामो समयदेखि स्वास्थ्य सेवा पुर्याउँदै आएको अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिकमा अब विशेषज्ञ डाक्टरद्वारा अत्याधुनिक प्रविधि युक्त दन्त सेवा सञ्चालन भइरहेको छ।
टुथपट, पेडियाट्रिक एन्ड फ्यामिली डेन्टल सेवा। अवध नारायण मेमोरियल क्लिनिक, आदर्श टोल, अतिथि सदन पछाडि। सम्पर्क 9818 62 63 01 021 512 811।
विशेष कन्टेन्ट मस्ती फुल HD च्यानल्स मेरो टिभी भरि छन्। लाइटिङ स्पिड मेरो बायोनेट सेक्युर छ। मेरो इन्टरनेट कन्ट्रोल सबै मेरो हातमा। बायोनेट छ सधैँ साथमा।
Via TV, Via Secure, Ultra Boost अनि 24 आवर सर्भिस एस्युरेन्सका साथ अब तपाईको भाइनेट भएको छ अल गुण सम्पन्न इन्टरनेट र यसै खुसीमा भाइनेटले प्रदान गर्दैछ फ्री मल्टी टिभी 60 MBPS प्याकेजको साथमा 3 वटा र 40 MBPS प्याकेजको साथमा 2 वटा Via TV। भाइनेट अल गुण सम्पन्न इन्टरनेट। सम्पर्क नम्बर 0159704444 र 9801046410।
अब आफ्नो 15 नजिकपन साथमा होइन सामाजिक दूरीमा नापौं।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज आफ्ना विद्यार्थी मात्र होइन, यहाँ सम्पूर्णको स्वास्थ्य जीवनको कामना गर्दछ।
कोभिड-19 बाट आफू र अरूलाई बचाउने एउटै उपाय हो सामाजिक दूरी। यसका लागि पारिवारिक सामाजिक समारोह नगरौं। भिडभाड र आम्ने सामने हुँदा सरकारद्वारा निर्देशित नियमको पालना गरी सामाजिक दूरी कायम गरौं।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेजद्वारा जनहितमा जारी।
जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज MBA र BBA अध्ययन परामर्शका लागि सम्पर्क 98 424 07 517। उत्कृष्ट BBA र MBA का लागि जेनिथ इन्टरनेशनल कलेज।
ठीक कैली वही दिन हम जे नजदीक के प्रहरी ल जाकर बात कर सकली अपना ऊपर भेल हिंसा के बारे में। कतेक सहु पहिने त केकरो कहियो नहीं सकै छली, आप त एकदम अति भेला के बाद कैसे हो सकै छी।
ए मनीषा कौन सोच में डूबल छी?
हाँ किस नहीं, वहीना चाय पी रहल छी ठंडा हवा में बैस क।
चाय पी लेली?
हाँ पी लेली।
एमहर दू त चाय के कप आई हम धोए जाइ छी।
पुलिस बोलाकर घरेलू हिंसा करबला के केहन सजाय होइ छै कहिक समझौला के बाद मात्रै उनका बुझ में आयल। पहिने त पुलिस लगेला पर औरो पीटत जेहन डर लगै छल, मुदा ओहि दिन उनका आँख में पहिल बेर पछतावा देखली।
होश करू, घरेलू हिंसा करबला के 3000 से 25000 रुपया धरि जरिवाना आ 3 महीना कैद या 30000 रुपया धरि जरिवाना या 6 महीना धरि कैद या दुनू सजाय भ सकैत अछि। अपना ऊपर घरेलू हिंसा भेला पर सही के नहीं रहू। नजदीक के प्रहरी के फोन नंबर 100 या राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग के पैसा नहीं लागे वाला हॉटलाइन नंबर 1145 पर तुरंत खबर करी।
हिंसा मुक्त घर खुशी आ सुखी परिवार के एकैटा आधार।
महिला बाल बालिका तथा ज्येष्ठ नागरिक मंत्रालय संघक सहकार्य में UN वुमन द्वारा जनहित में जारी संदेश।
BFM 91.2 शत% तपाईको। BFM 91.2 शत% तपाईको। सुन्दै जाऊ सुनाउँदै
So, you have worked with a lot of great organizations and institutions, but one which I will cover is, because this is a football thing, I'll touch on Manchester United. So you worked with them when Sir Alex was there. So, you worked with the likes of Ronaldo, Rooney. So did you have to make individual sleep maybe patterns for them, or what is it like? How did you analyze both? Was there a huge difference between players?
In those early days, because we're talking the late 90s into 2000s, I worked with the club up until principally Alex Ferguson retired. And it's very, very common in football that when a manager retires or whatever, or gets sacked or whatever, they bring in a brand new team and have a fresh start. So I basically stopped working with the club. I still have dialogue with them every now and again, but I do more work with other clubs these days. But in those particular days, there was no specific strategy. It was more educating the manager, educating the coaching staff, the physios, the club doctors, and developing ways that we could use various elements of the sleeping process to maybe help with as things change. So sometimes I would be engaged directly with the players. Sometimes the players would ask me to, advise them personally. But as the years developed, we then started doing workshops with all the teams. So I would go in and do something for the whole squad, and then they might involve me individually from that point. And the way it works today is a lot of the organisers, because it's about their personal recovery. So it's got a lot to do with their friends and their families and their own social side, and not just the sport. It can be quite an intrusive area, because it's quite a private space. Sleeping normally happens in a bedroom or something, and it's a private space, and we're not used to revealing, what goes on while we're asleep. So it's kind of, the clubs normally just introduce me, and we'll do some workshops, and then they just encourage the players to come to me privately. Because they know what I do is not going to have any impact on them, only positive, not negative. So if we can have a positive impact, then they actually just enjoy that. So in many cases, there are a lot of individual characteristics, and not only within the sport. You've got strikers and goalkeepers, and you've got, different types of profiles, but you've also got, in different sports, you've got different disciplines and all that sort of stuff, and different media attention as well, So football is one of the highest. So once you become, once you get into top flight football, your time is not your own anymore, So there's a lot of dynamics, to be honest. There's sort of psychology, there's giving them techniques to be able to deal with the ever-changing circumstances, traveling through time zones, sleeping in all different types of environments. And so you wander through a little process with a profiling process. We get to know each other. We start to peel away all of those little personal characteristics, and then we're able to apply, a redefined approach, and then they crack on, and they're sorted for the rest of their life, really, because it's not you don't have to come and see me every week, It's like once we've sort of, re-educated and filled the gap, then they're off.
So before we move on to our last segment and the last break, before the last segment, we'll play the last song, the second last song of the evening, titled Audio by LSD. So enjoy the song. This is one of my favorites, and you might have heard it in the show a lot in the past 6 months from when we have started, because I really like this song, and I hope to convert all of you all to listening to this song. So enjoy the song, and I'll see you on the other side of the song and the break.
Yoo-hoo! The tip's not part of the deal!
We got a ride, we got the night. I got the bottle, you got the light. We got the stars. the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the song so sweet, you gon' come home with me, oh. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the song so sweet, you gon' come home with me, oh.
The heart, we got the soul. Just when the world's saying they got no hope, here comes the love. We got audio. We flying high, superhero. That's on my chest with my Marilyn Monroe. Feel like a star, 'cause we got audio.
Make it go. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the song so sweet, you gon' come home with me, oh. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the bum bum beat, I'll give you melody. Make the song so sweet, you gon' come home with me, oh. That tortilla.
नवजीवन सँगै जिङ चक्की खुवाउने किनकि 5 वर्ष मुनिका बच्चालाई पखाला लाग्दा नवजीवन सँगै जिङ चक्की खुवाउँदा बच्चाको पखाला चाँडो निको हुन्छ।
त्यसैले नेपाल सिआरएस कम्पनीद्वारा वितरित नवजीवन र जिङ चक्कीको कम्बी प्याक नवजीवन जिङ प्लस आजै घरमा लिएर आउनुहोस्।
नवजीवन जिङ प्लस झाडा पखाला माइनस।
आयो फेरि आयो है बागमती प्लास्टिक गाउँ सहर सबैको घर घर बागमती प्लास्टिक
जस्तै बलियो राम्रो अनि भरपर्दो आकर्षक रङहरूमा बागमती प्लास्टिक
हो यो गौरव नेपालको प्लास्टिकका सामानहरूमा सबैभन्दा पहिलो कहिल्यै नटुट्ने कहिल्यै नफुट्ने बागमतीका राइनो ब्रान्डका प्लास्टिकका सामानहरू तपाईहरुको चोक बजारमा फेरि आयो है। राइनो अनब्रेकेबल।
यो माटो नै हो सान, माटो नै अभिमान, मातृभूमिको यो माटोलाई छ मेरो सलाम। जगदम्बा जगदम्बा यही माटोमा जन्मिए यही माटोमा कर्म गर्नु छ, नझुकी यही माटोमा देशको स्वरूप बदल्नु छ।
कसम छ यो मातृभूमिको साथ छ मलाई मेरो जगदम्बा सिमेन्टको।
मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा, मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा,
मेरो देश मेरो जगदम्बा सिमेन्ट।
विराटनगरमै पहिलो पटक लेजर प्रविधिद्वारा शरीरका अनावश्यक रौँ हटाइने क्युटी केयर क्लिनिक,
जहाँ डाक्टर वन्दना झाद्वारा छाला, नङ, कपाल र सम्पूर्ण सौन्दर्य सम्बन्धी उपचार गरिन्छ।
अब हरेक दिन अझ बढी आत्मविश्वास।
क्युटीज केयर क्लिनिक, विराटनगर 13, रानी, विराटनगर आँखा अस्पतालसँगै। विस्तृत जानकारीका लागि 9827 073 958।
एन्टेना फाउन्डेसन नेपालको प्रस्तुति नेपाल चौतारी।
7 दिन 7 सवाल।
घरमै बसेर पनि 3-3 महिनाको स्वत प्रकाशन गर्ने विवरण, त्यो त आफ्नो आफ्नो शाखाको आफ्नो आफ्नो जिम्मेवारीको कुरा त घरमा बसेर पनि त्यो प्रस्तुत गर्न सकिन्छ र त्यो सूचना भित्तामा टाँस्न सकिन्छ।
हामी सामाजिक रूपले अलग भएको छैनौँ, टाढा भएको छैनौँ। भौतिक रूपले असामान्य परिस्थितिमा केही समय टाढा भएको।
हामी कहाँ लागेको लकडाउन भनेको चाहिँ यो हेल्थ इमर्जेन्सीलाई चाहिँ कन्ट्रोल गर्न, जुन संक्रमक रोग ऐन अन्तर्गत लागेको अवस्थामा चाहिँ कुनै पनि सूचना प्रवाह गर्ने दायित्वबाट चाहिँ स्टेटले पन्छिन चाहिँ पाउँदैन।
धारामा पानी खान पनि दिएनन्, गाउँको बाटो हिँड्नु पनि दिएनन्, बास बस्न पनि दिएनन्, खाना पकाएर खान पनि दिएनन् भन्ने जुन कुराहरू आयो नि, त्यो हामीले यही सामाजिक दूरी कायम गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने जुन शब्दले निर्माण गरेको एउटा मनोविज्ञान थियो कि मान्छेलाई टाढा राख भन्ने कुरा।
स्थानीय रेडियो, हाम्रो पात्रो, एन्टेनाको वेबसाइट र सोसल मिडियामा हरेक बिहान 8:15 बजे देशैभरि एकैसाथ नेपाल चौतारी।
प्रसारण सहकार्य
ब्रोडकास्टिङ एसोसिएसन अफ नेपाल, बाङ।
विश्व शिखरको फेरि सप्तकोशी मुहान, छाती बनेर हाँसा इलामको बगान, मिथिलाको सभ्यता सप्तकोशीको नाम बन्दैछ आज उही पूर्वको अर्को सान। सिमेन्ट सप्तकोशी गौरव बनिरहेछ, विकासको बाटोलाई सधैँ कोरिरहेछ।
सप्तकोशी ओपिसी सिमेन्ट, पूर्वको गौरव।
Not A, not C, let's stick to the BFM. Whoa, sound of the city, BFM. Whoa, sound of the city, F4 91.2, the stereo with quality. Here's presenting the BFM, guaranteed to be 100% your sound of the city, no doubt. Check this one out. Wow!
So, again, I'll touch on the football part. And you have worked with a lot of professionals. For you, who was which one professional or multiple who were very interested, when you approached them, or they approached you after your workshop?
I've always had a particular personal philosophy as my career started to develop, that the only way I could have a real impact on any individual was to gain their complete trust, okay? And so that we could actually discuss things that were extremely private to them, okay? And that I was not going to post it on Instagram and, So I've always been extremely conscious about sharing any information with any of my clients. But I will answer your question, but I certainly haven't hidden away from the clients that I've been working with. So Manchester United, Manchester City this season, the last 4 or 5 seasons, Liverpool Football Club, Real Madrid, RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen, NBA teams, NFL teams, the New Zealand Olympic rowing squad, British cycling team squad. So within these squads, there's a lot of famous celebrities. And sometimes I don't actually get to know how much impact it's had on them, because I might be coaching a group of people and individuals go away and they do more with it than others. And then suddenly I'll find out a few years later that that particular individual made some massive strides, right? But it's not necessarily because I was coaching them individually. I was working with the club and all the coaches, and it was being passed on. Because sometimes there is language and translation issues. So sometimes I'll coach other coaches to coach players. But I have to say, certainly when Cristiano Ronaldo came to Manchester United, he was, there was a lot of things going on around him that he was very naive about lots of stuff, and suddenly started to take on board all the things that were going on inside of Manchester United with Alex Ferguson, the coaches. And he immediately took them on board, he immediately developed them, and he went on to be, the best player in the world consistently and still playing today at the highest level. So you can see that some of the things he adopted very early on has really put him in place for a long, long career. Right? Ryan Giggs was another one way back then who could still play Premiership football now. There was David Beckham's of those times. So there was a set of athletes changing a little bit against the norm, I have to say. But along that route, they've done it. So even when I went to work with Real Madrid, Cristiano was there at the club. And whilst I was coaching all the staff and everything else and doing facility checks and all that sort of stuff, he was very much there in the background. And if you look at his social media, he's always had a bit of an indifferent relationship with the media over the years. But whoever you meet from a performance coaching perspective, there are reasons why he's one of the leading footballers that have ever come across. And that's because he invests in his own personal performance heavily, right? So his performance levels are off the charts compared to others. So he really sets much higher standards. So he would certainly be one. Ryan Giggs was very early on setting the standards there. I think also as an organisation, Manchester City, as a club, right, and all the people have really opened their mind up to recovery, to make certain strides. And up until this season, they're still second. Between them and Liverpool, they've had the most amazing sort of 3 seasons, haven't they, of just breaking records for fun. And they are significantly in front of the rest in that sort of sense.
So on that note, Nick, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best. Maybe you can help other teams in the future and grow as a professional. Take care, thank you, and once again, bye.
It's very kind of you, and it's very nice to speak to you, and maybe we'll hook up again at some point in the future.
Hopefully.
And it'd be lovely to see if you're going to post it around, just send us the links, and if you want us to share it ourselves, we'll do so. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
So on that note, I'm sorry to say, but we have to take a leave today for this week, and I hope you all have enjoyed our show as usual. I know you all like our show, but you all are not showing your feelings. Please go ahead and like the page on Facebook, Instagram, and even on YouTube, because you can see the full version of the video there. So before we go, we'll play a song titled Counting Stars by One Republic. I actually listened to this song a lot during my college days, and I hope you like the song. It's one of my personal favorite, and I say that for all the songs, so you know how special the songs are in this show, because I select each and every song which I like. So I hopefully think you all like. So on that note, I'll stop the jibber jabber, and that is it from us this week, and hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you again next week, the same time. Have a good evening and a good week. Namaste. Adios.
Lately I've been losing sleep, dreaming about the things that we could be. But baby, I've been praying hard. Said no more counting dollars, we'll be counting stars. Yeah, we'll be counting stars. Like a swinging vine, swing my heart across the line. In my face is flashing signs. Seek it out and ye shall find. Old, but I'm not that old. Young, but I'm not that bold. And I don't think the world is sold. I'm just doing what we're told. I feel something so right, doing the wrong thing. And I feel so this river every turn. Hope is our four-letter word. Make that money, watch it burn. Old, but I'm not that old. Young, but I'm not that bold. And I don't think the world is sold. I'm just doing